mop hit the marble floor at exactly 6:43 in the morning, and Nora Adiz Egwu did not flinch. She dragged it across the long corridor of the third floor with the quiet efficiency of someone who had done this 1,000 times, because she had. 3 years, 4 months, and 11 days of arriving before the city woke up, before the executives in their tailored suits stepped off their private cars, before the perfume and the ambition, and the money filled up every floor of Halcyon Tower like invisible smoke. She was always here first. She always would be. Nora was 28 years old. She had a degree in business administration from Rivers State University, a first-class one, the kind her mother had framed and hung above the television in their two-room flat in Rumuola. She had the degree, the frame, the mother's pride, and a cleaning contractor badge that said NORAE, third floor crew. She had stopped being bitter about it 2 years ago. Bitterness was a luxury. Her sister Adiora's university fees were not. She dipped the mop into the bucket and pushed water across the marble, watching it catch the overhead light and shimmer. One earbud in, one out. The audio playing was a podcast on corporate operations strategy. She was always studying something, always preparing for a door that had not opened yet. She did not hear the lift open at the far end of the corridor. She did not hear the small, careful footsteps that followed. What she heard was a voice, not loud, not frightened, but distinctly lost. "Excuse me, my child, is this where the big man offices are?" Nora turned. Standing near the service lift, clutching a brown leather handbag against her chest with both hands, was an elderly woman. She wore a blouse the color of ripe mango, a wrapper tied firmly at her waist, and flat sandals that had seen many years of use. Her silver hair was pinned neatly at the back of her head. Her eyes were sharp, warm, and just slightly uncertain, the eyes of someone too proud to admit she was confused but too honest to pretend otherwise. Nora pulled out her earbud. She looked at the woman properly. She could see she was alone. "Good morning, Ma." Nora set the mop against the wall. "Are you looking for someone?" "My son." The woman adjusted her bag. "His office is in this building. The 28th floor, they told me, but the lift brought me here and I am not sure this is right." "The lifts on this side are service lifts, Ma. They go to every floor, but they do not open to the main reception. You need the public lifts on the east wing." Nora pointed. "Did someone bring you in, or did you come alone?" "I came alone. I wanted to surprise him." The woman smiled, and the smile was so genuine it changed the shape of her entire face. "I have not seen him in 3 months. A mother can only wait so long before she boards a plane." Nora studied her for a moment. The handbag was expensive, she could tell from the stitching, even though it was old and well used. The wrapper was quality fabric. But the woman had arrived at Halcyon Tower alone, taken the wrong lift, and was now standing in a service corridor at 10 minutes to 7 in the morning. Something about it pulled at Nora's chest. "Do you have his number? We can call him and he can send someone down." "My phone." The old woman opened her bag and looked in with faint dismay. "The battery finished on the way from the airport. I was going to charge it when I got here." Nora did not hesitate. She reached into the front pocket of her cleaning apron, pulled out a small power bank and a cable, and held them out. "Use this, it is fully charged." The woman looked at the power bank, then at Nora. Something moved across her face, surprise, then something softer. "You are sure?" "Yes, Ma, please." Nora plugged the cable into the woman's phone and handed it to her. "Sit here while it charges. It will only take a few minutes." She guided the woman to the plastic chair outside the service supply room, the one Nora herself sat on during her 5-minute breaks, and the woman sat, still holding her bag, looking at Nora with quiet curiosity. "What is your name?" "Nora." "Nora," the woman repeated it like she was tasting it. "I am Mama Chidinma, that is what everyone calls me." She looked around the corridor, then back at Nora. "You work here, cleaning?" "Yes, Ma." "And you are happy?" The question surprised her. Most people did not ask that. They either looked through her or looked past her. "I am working towards something," Nora said carefully. "This is not the end." Mama Chidinma nodded slowly. like she found that answer more satisfying than the one she had asked for. Good, a person who knows where they are going is never truly lost. They sat together in the quiet of the corridor while the phone charged. Mama Chidinma asked about Nora's family, and Nora found herself answering about Adjora's studies, about the small flat in Rumuola, about her mother's knees that had been bad since last Harmattan. She did not know why she was telling a stranger these things. Perhaps because the woman listened the way that few people did completely, without preparing her next sentence while someone else was still talking. When the phone had enough power, Mama Chidinma turned it on. She scrolled to a number and pressed call. It rang 3 times. No answer. She tried again, still nothing. "He is always in meetings in the morning," she muttered, more to herself than to Nora. "That boy works too much. Since his father died, he works like he is running from something." "Let me call the reception on 28, Nora said. "They can reach him or send someone down." She used the internal line on the corridor wall, the one cleaning staff used for maintenance requests, and dialed through to the executive floor reception. She explained calmly that an elderly visitor, the family member of one of the executives, was waiting on 3 and needed an escort. Her voice was steady and clear, professional. 7 minutes later, a young man in a dark suit stepped out of the main lift and looked down the corridor with mild confusion before spotting them. "Mrs. Chidinma, I am so sorry for the wait. I will take you up now." Mama Chidinma rose from the chair, accepted the return of her power bank from Nora, and then, without warning, reached out and held Nora's face in both her palms. It was not an awkward gesture. It was entirely natural, like something she had done 100 times with people she loved. "You have a good heart, Nora, a very good heart." Her eyes were bright. "God does not waste good hearts, remember that." Nora stood very still. She felt something in her throat tighten in a way she had not expected. "Take care of yourself, Ma." The old woman walked away. The young man held the lift for her. The doors closed. Nora stood alone in the corridor for a moment. Then she picked up her mop and went back to work. She did not know, could not have known, that the cameras in that corridor had been running the entire time. On the 28th floor, in the corner office with floor-to-ceiling glass that looked out over Port Harcourt's sprawling skyline, Damien Okafor-Briggs was in the middle of destroying a quarterly projection. These numbers are not a forecast, they are a wish list. He set the printed report on the conference table with a controlled precision that was somehow more frightening than slamming it. "Which of you signed off on this?" No one answered immediately. 4 senior managers sat around the table. 3 of them were staring at the report. 1 was staring at the table. Damien Okafor-Briggs was 36 years old. He was the founder and chief executive of Axion Group, a real estate and infrastructure conglomerate that had built or financed more than 40% of the new commercial development in Port Harcourt's financial district, including the tower they were currently sitting in. He was not cruel. He was not theatrical. He was simply the kind of man whose expectations arrived before he did and stayed after he left. His personal assistant, Tund Bello, knocked twice and entered without waiting. "Sir, your mother is on her way up." Damien turned from the table. Something shifted in his face, not softness exactly, more like the removal of armor. "She is here. She came this morning. Apparently she has been in the building for a while. She was found on the 3rd floor." Tund paused with the particular precision of a man who chose his words carefully. "One of the cleaning staff helped her when her phone died. Called up, arranged the escort. The reception log has it." Damien did not move for a moment. Then he looked at the senior managers. "We will continue this tomorrow, with corrected numbers." They filed out quickly. The room emptied. Damien walked to the window and looked down at the city. 40 floors below, cars moved in the morning traffic like colored beads on a wire. Somewhere in those 40 floors, someone had helped his mother without being asked, without any possibility of reward, without even knowing who she was. He turned to Tund. "The cleaning staff member, can you find out who it was?" "Already have. Her name is Nora Egwu, 3rd floor contract crew, been with the contractor for over 3 years." That is all. Tund hesitated for exactly 1 second, the hesitation of a man who had prepared for this question. No, she has a first-class degree in business administration from Rivers State University. She applied for a position here 14 months ago, junior operations analyst. She was filtered out before the application reached HR review. The system flagged her current employment as inconsistent with the role. Damien looked at him. The system filtered her out because she was a cleaner. Yes. The silence that followed was not empty. It was the kind of silence that made decisions. Keep that file. I want to look at it properly. The lift opened and Mama Chidinma walked in, arms already open, scolding him before she had even crossed the room. 3 months, Damien. 3 months and not one visit. Do you know what that does to a mother? You could have called before boarding a plane. I could have, but then you would have found a reason to be in Abuja. He let her hug him. He was a full foot taller than her, and the embrace looked slightly comical from the outside, this large, composed man and his tiny, fierce mother, but he held on longer than he intended. There is a young woman downstairs, Mama Chidinma said when she stepped back, looking up at him with those sharp eyes. Nora, she helped me when I was lost. She sat with me. She shared her charger, Damien. Do you understand what I am saying? She did not have to do any of it, she just did. I know. You know, how do you know? Because I asked, I always ask. His mother studied him. Then she pointed one finger at him, the way she had when he was 7 years old and lying about his homework. Do not make me come back here to ask you why you did nothing with that information. I never do nothing, he said. I just do things slowly. Vivienne Ose had been the senior operations manager at Halcyon Tower for 4 years, and in those 4 years, she had developed what she privately called a talent for reading rooms. She knew who mattered, who was rising, and who was dangerously close to overtaking her. She had kept her position by making herself indispensable, by knowing things others did not, and by removing complications before they became problems. She had seen Damien in the lobby, watching his mother greet the front desk guard with the warmth of someone's grandmother. She had seen the expression on his face when the guard pointed toward the service corridor and said something she could not hear from where she stood. She had walked to reception afterward and looked at the escort log. Nora Egwu, 3rd floor. She had stood there looking at the name for a moment, and then, without expression, she had put the clipboard back down. The next morning, Vivienne called a routine review of the cleaning contractor's performance log. It was not unusual. She did these quarterly. What was unusual was that when the supervisor arrived with the folder, Vivienne immediately turned to the 3rd floor section and asked, with quiet authority, whether there had been any complaints or irregularities. The supervisor was a tired man named Mr. Effa, who had worked with the contractor for 16 years and liked things calm. Nothing significant, he said. Nora Egwu has the cleanest record on the crew. What about the supply room inventory? Vivienne opened a second folder, her own, which she had prepared the night before. There was a clipboard missing from the 4th floor storage room 2 days ago. Mr. Effa frowned. I was not aware of that. It was reported to my office. The last access to that room was logged under a 3rd floor crew rotation. I am not making any accusations. Vivienne folded her hands on the desk. But protocol requires a formal note. I want Nora Egwu interviewed before the end of the week. Mr. Effa looked at the folder. He looked at Vivienne. He had been in this industry long enough to recognize when a weight was being arranged around someone's neck, but he was not the kind of man who said that out loud. I will see to it, he said. Nora received the message through Mr. Effa at the end of her Thursday shift. Report to the contractor office. Operations management wants to speak with you. Bring your access card. She sat with it for a moment in the service corridor, turning the paper in her hands. Then she folded it, put it in her apron pocket, and finished her work before leaving. She arrived at the small contractor office on the basement level the following morning in her uniform, her badge straight, her face composed. Vivienne sat across from her. Mr. Effa sat to the side. A human resources representative from the building management company sat at the end of the table, holding a pen and not using it. "Good morning," Nora said. "Good morning." Vivienne did not smile. "Do you know why you are here?" "No." A clipboard has gone missing from the fourth-floor storage room. The last access log for the adjacent service corridor places you in that section 2 days ago. Nora was quiet for a beat. "I was on the third floor that day. My entire shift was third floor. You can check the supervisor log." "The log shows corridor access, not floor assignments." "Then check the floor sweeping report I submitted. It is time-stamped every 2 hours. I did not go to the fourth floor." Vivienne looked at her with the patient expression of someone who had already decided the outcome. "We are not making a formal accusation. We are simply conducting due diligence." "Then I will tell you clearly so there is no confusion." Nora looked directly at her, not with aggression, but with a steadiness that seemed to unsettle Vivienne slightly. "I did not take a clipboard. I have never taken anything from this building. My record here is clean and it will remain clean." "The matter is under review," Vivienne said. "Then review it properly." Nora stood. "Is there anything else?" Vivienne said nothing. Nora walked out. In the corridor outside, she pressed her back against the wall for exactly 5 seconds. Her heart was hammering. Her hands were steady. She had learned a long time ago to keep the shaking on the inside. She was not afraid of losing the job. She was afraid that she had no other choice but to stay in it. It happened 3 days later, and it happened by accident. Damien had been in a site meeting on the 6th floor and had taken the stairwell down, intending to reach the car park. He miscounted. He pushed open a door and found himself in the third-floor service corridor, 20 meters from a woman in a cleaning uniform pushing a mop bucket. Nora looked up. She saw a tall man in a dark jacket, no tie, looking momentarily lost. She did not recognize him. She had never been on the 28th floor. He looked like someone who had not stopped moving all day. "Are you okay?" she asked. "You look like someone who has been in back-to-back meetings since morning." He blinked. It was such a specific observation, delivered so plainly, that he did not quite know how to deflect it. "Is it that obvious? Your jacket is on and it is almost noon, and you are in the wrong corridor." She nodded at the door he had come through. "Main lifts are through that door on your left." "Thank you." He did not move immediately. "You work up here every day?" "Every morning, this floor and sometimes the second." He looked at her for a moment. Or rather, he looked at her the way people rarely did, as though he was actually registering her rather than looking through her. "Do you enjoy it?" She tilted her head slightly. Twice in 1 week someone had asked her a question like that. She had been here 3 years, and before this week, she could not remember the last time anyone had. "I enjoy some parts. The mornings are quiet. I study during my breaks." "Study?" "Business operations, corporate strategy. I listen to podcasts mostly, sometimes read during lunch." She paused. "I am working towards something." He was quiet for a moment. Then, "Have you eaten?" "No, not yet." "Neither have I." She reached into the small bag beside her cleaning kit, the same bag where she kept her power bank, her earbuds, and her lunch. She pulled out a small wrap of chin-chin and held it toward him without ceremony. "Here, it is not a meal, but it will hold you until you eat." He looked at the chin-chin. He looked at her. There was a quality to the gesture that no meeting, no report, no acquisition in recent memory had carried, something completely uncalculated. He took it. He stood in the service corridor of his own building, eating small fried dough from a plastic wrap handed to him by a woman who did not know his name. And it was, quietly, the most human he had felt in months. "Thank you," he said. "Take the left door," she said, and went back to her mop. He took the left door. He stood in the main corridor for a moment before walking to the lift. He pressed the button for 28. When the doors closed, he stood very still, thinking. If you are still with us, leave a comment below telling us, would you have done what Nora did? And do not forget to subscribe if you are new. There is so much more coming. Tund had the full file on his desk by the end of that afternoon. Damien had asked two things: everything about Nora Egwu and everything about the missing clipboard. Tund had learned over 7 years of working with this man that when Damien asked for two separate things in the same breath, they were usually one thing. The clipboard investigation was easy to trace. There were cameras in the storage corridor. Tund pulled the access timestamps from building security. The room had been opened twice on the day in question. Once at 7:14 a.m. by a maintenance technician from the engineering team. Once at 11:52 a.m. by an administrative assistant whose building access card was registered to Vivienne Osai's department. Nora Egwu had not accessed the 4th floor at any point that day. Her time-stamped floor reports confirmed it. Her supervisor's log confirmed it. The camera at the 3rd floor service lift confirmed it. The second part of the file was harder, not because the information was difficult to find, but because of what it said about systems that were supposed to work differently. Nora Egwu had applied for a junior operations analyst position at Axion Group 14 months ago. She had scored in the top 5% of the initial aptitude screen. Her academic record was outstanding. Her application had been automatically deprioritized by the HR screening software when it cross-referenced her listed current employer, the cleaning contractor, with the role category. The software had been programmed to flag inconsistencies. Her degree said one thing. Her employment said another. The software had chosen the employment. No human eye had ever reviewed her application. Tund printed everything. He carried it to Damien's office. He set it on the desk without comment. Damien read it without speaking. He read it twice. When he finished, he set the papers down and looked out the window at the city below. "Is her position at risk?" he asked. "The contractor review. Vivienne has put formal pressure on Mr. Effa to consider letting her go. He is resisting, but he is a contractor, not an employee. If the building management formally backs Vivienne, he does not have a lot of room." Damien turned from the window. "Schedule a full internal staffing review. HR, operations, contractor relations. I want it thorough, and I want Vivienne to know I have ordered it. And Nora, pull her application back from the archive. Have HR prepare a direct offer package." He paused. "Junior executive level, operations development, with a structured onboarding period before she assumes responsibilities." Tund wrote it down. "And the system that filtered her out?" Damien asked. "I can flag it to the software team." "Do not flag it, fix it, completely. I want to know how many applications have been buried the same way in the past 2 years." Tund nodded. He picked up the folder. He was almost at the door when Damien said, without turning around, "Tund, she gave me her lunch today." Tund stopped, "Sir." "In the corridor. I came through the wrong door and she gave me the food from her bag. She did not know who I was." Tund was quiet for a moment. Then, "She does not know who her employer is either technically. The contract is with the building management, not with Axion." "I know," Damien finally turned. "She is going to have a very strange week." The internal review took 4 days. It was quiet, methodical, and devastating in the way that only the truth can be when it is written down in clean columns. Vivienne Osai's record at Halcyon Tower was, on the surface, excellent. She had driven operational efficiency, managed vendor relationships firmly, and never missed a deadline. What the review uncovered, when it went deeper, was a pattern. 3 previous contractor staff members had been the subject of formal complaints under her supervision in the past 2 years. In each case, the complaint had followed a moment in which the staff member had come to the attention of senior management in a way Vivienne had not arranged or controlled. In each case, the complaint had not been sustained, but in each case, the staff member had quietly left. It was not dramatic. It was a system of small pressures carefully placed. Damien met with her on a Thursday afternoon. He did not raise his voice. He did not accuse. He laid the review findings on the table between them and let her read. Vivienne read. Her face did not move significantly. She was too controlled for that. "This is a pattern," Damien said. "Not a mistake, not a misunderstanding. A pattern. I cannot have that in this organization. I have delivered results for this building for 4 years." "You have, and those results are noted. But results do not cancel character, Vivienne. They never have in any organization I have led." He closed the folder. "You are being placed on administrative suspension effective today. A formal conduct review will follow. HR will be in touch." She stood. She straightened her jacket with precise movements. She looked at him once, a long, contained look that held everything she was not going to say. Then she walked out. The room was very quiet after she left. Tund, who had been standing near the door, let out a breath. "That went better than I expected," he said. "Controlled people do not make scenes," Damien said. "They just make plans, keep an eye on the transition." Mama Chidinma had agreed to stay in Port Harcourt for a week. Damien had moved her into the guest suite of his apartment with minimal argument, mostly by having her bags transferred while she was in the shower. On day 4, she announced that she wanted to go back to the building. "Why?" Damien asked over breakfast. "I have something to deliver." She patted her handbag with the air of someone who had already decided. "To who?" "You know to who." He took her. They rode the main lifts to the 3rd floor. Mama Chidinma pushed the button herself. Damien stood beside her, saying nothing. The lift opened to the main 3rd floor corridor. Nora was at the far end, moving the mop in slow, even strokes. She did not look up immediately. Mama Chidinma walked toward her. Nora heard footsteps and turned and stopped. She stood with the mop in her hand and stared. "Mama Chidinma." "Nora, my daughter." The old woman opened her arms and Nora walked into them without thinking, because there was nothing else to do when someone old enough to be your grandmother opened their arms to you. They embraced in the middle of the corridor. Mama Chidinma pressed something into Nora's hand, a small tin of biscuits and a folded note. "Open the note later," the old woman whispered, "when you are alone." Nora nodded, not trusting her voice. At the end of the corridor, Damien stood with his hands in his jacket pockets, watching. His mother turned to look at him over her shoulder, caught his expression, and raised an eyebrow in the way that mothers do when they have been right about something they said 3 days ago and are choosing not to say it again. He looked away. He looked back. Nora was still holding the tin, and she was smiling with her eyes even before her mouth caught up. He had built 40 floors of glass and concrete. He could not explain why a woman smiling over a tin of biscuits in a service corridor made something in his chest move. The message came the following Tuesday. A formal letter on Axion Group letterhead delivered to the contractor office addressed to Nora Adiz Egwu. Mr. Effa handed it to her personally, with an expression she could not read. He just said, "Open it when you are sitting down." She sat in the supply room on her small chair, the same one Mama Chidinma had used, and opened the envelope. It was a direct employment offer. Junior Executive Operations Development, Axion Group, Halcyon Tower. A salary that made her read the figure twice and then a 3rd time. A 3-month structured training program before full assumption of responsibilities. At the bottom, report to Mr. Tunbello, Chief of Staff, on Wednesday at 9 a.m. She sat with the letter in her hands for a very long time. The supply room was quiet. Somewhere down the corridor, a lift chimed. She pressed the back of her hand to her mouth. She did not cry. She was not sure what she did exactly. Something shifted inside her. Something that had been held in a particular tense position for 3 years, 4 months and some days, and was now very slowly releasing. She read the note Mama Chidinma had given her that morning in her apartment before she left. She had not opened it until now. It said, in handwriting that was confident and slightly slanted, "Nora, I prayed for you the night I came home. I prayed that God would see what I saw in you, that He would not leave a good heart unnoticed. I think He answered quickly this time. Do not thank me. Just be what you already are. With love, Mama Chidinma." She folded the note carefully and put it in her pocket. She arrived at the 28th floor at 8:53 on Wednesday morning. She wore a pressed white blouse and dark trousers she had bought 3 years ago for job interviews and worn twice. Her braids were neat. Her shoes were polished. She had taken the main lift for the first time since the day she started working at Halcyon Tower. The reception was different up here. It was warmer, real plants in real pots, a woman behind the desk who smiled when she gave her name. "Miss Egwu, Mr. Bello is ready for you, follow me." Tun's office was mid-floor, not the corner. He was at his desk when she came in, a man in his 40s with reading glasses and the unhurried manner of someone who had learned that calm was more effective than urgency. "Good morning, sit down." She sat. "I imagine you have questions." "Many," she said. "Ask." She took a breath. "Why me? There must be other candidates. I applied 14 months ago and I heard nothing. What changed?" Tun took off his glasses. "Your application was filtered out by an automated system. No human reviewed it. That was a failure on our end, not yours. When your name came up recently, in a different context, someone looked at your file properly for the first time. The qualifications were always there. We simply did not see them." What different context, she already suspected. She needed to hear it. "You helped an elderly woman who had gotten lost in the building. She was in the service corridor for nearly an hour. You gave her your charger, you stayed with her, you arranged the escort. You did all of that with no knowledge of who she was." Nora was quiet. "She is Mr. Okafor-Briggs's mother," Tun said simply. The floor did not move, but something did. "The man with the files," she said slowly, "the meetings. He is the owner of this building, yes, and he takes an interest in how people treat each other in it." Tun leaned forward slightly. "Miss Egwu, you were recommended because of your character. You are being hired because of your qualifications. Those are two separate things and both of them are real." She exhaled. "And the man in the corridor," she looked at him, "the one I gave the chin-chin to." Tun blinked once. A small, controlled smile appeared at the edge of his mouth. "You gave him your lunch." He looked hungry. Tun pressed his lips together. "Yes, that was Mr. Okafor-Briggs." She stared at him. "He did not tell me his name." "He rarely does in those corridors." Tun folded his hands. "He will speak with you directly later today if you agree to sign the offer, but the decision is entirely yours. No pressure, no obligation." She looked down at the letter in her hands, at the letterhead, at the salary, at the word structured onboarding, which meant they were not just throwing her in, they were investing in her properly. "I agree," she said. She went to the 3rd floor one more time that afternoon. Not to clean. She did not have her uniform. She went because she needed to. The corridor was empty. The shift was between rotations. The mop she had used that morning was still propped against the wall at the far end. She walked to the supply room and picked it up. She carried it inside and set it against the shelf neatly. She closed the door. She stood in the corridor alone for a moment. 3 years, 4 months, and some days. This floor had held a lot of mornings, a lot of podcast episodes, a lot of quiet. She heard the stairwell door open. Damien stepped through it, the same dark jacket, no tie. He stopped when he saw her and his expression shifted just slightly. Recognition and something else that had no clean name. "You came back," he said. "I was putting the mop away." She looked at him. Now she knew the face. Now she understood the stairwell. "You come through the wrong door often." "It is the same door," he said. "I just sometimes choose it." She understood what that meant. She let it settle. "I did not know who you were," she said, "either time." "I know, that is precisely why it mattered." He looked at her steadily. "You asked me if I was okay. You gave me your food. You did not know what I was worth and it did not change what you did." "Why would it?" He was quiet for a moment. "Then, it would for most people." "Then most people are working too hard at the wrong things." Something moved through his expression, quick, warm, almost surprised. "My mother likes you," he said. Your mother is easy to like. She is also difficult, relentless, and has very strong opinions about everything. He tilted his head. You will get to know that side soon enough if you accept dinner with the family. She has already announced it. Nora laughed. It came out fully, not contained, and it echoed slightly in the corridor. She moves fast. She always has. His eyes were on her. I should have introduced myself the first time. I am sorry I did not. It is fine. I think I prefer how it happened. She looked at him honestly. No title, no context, just a man who looked tired and needed chin-chin. He smiled. It was a real one, quiet, complete, the kind that does not happen often and means more for it. Start date is Monday, he said. Tund will brief you on the program tomorrow. I know, I already confirmed. Good, he turned toward the stairwell door, then stopped. Nora. Yes. Thank you for my mother, for the corridor, for all of it. She held his gaze. Take the left door next time. He laughed softly and took the right one. On the ground floor of Halcyon Tower, at 10 minutes past 4 in the afternoon, Nora Adiz Egwu walked through the main glass entrance and stepped outside. Not through the service door, not through the contractor's side entrance, through the front. Port Harcourt moved around her, the cars, the noise, the late afternoon heat pressing against the glass of the new financial district. She stood on the pavement and breathed it in. She called her mother. Mama. Nora, why are you calling in the middle of the afternoon? Is everything all right? Everything is all right. She looked up at the tower, 40 floors of glass catching the light. I have something to tell you. Tell me. You know the building I clean? Yes. They offered me a job, a real one, inside in operations. Silence. Then a sound she had not heard her mother make in a long time, something between a gasp and a cry and a laugh, all compressed into one breath. Nora, my Nora. I start on Monday, Mama. Her voice broke slightly, only slightly. Tell Ajora I am okay. Tell her she does not have to worry anymore. Her mother was crying fully now. She could hear it, the kind of crying that parents do when they have been holding something frightening for too long and are finally allowed to put it down. How her mother managed, how did this happen? Nora watched the light move across the glass of the tower. 40 floors. The old woman with the mango-colored blouse. The man in the jacket eating chin-chin in a service corridor. A prayer written in slanted handwriting on a folded note. I was just kind, Mama, she said. I was just kind to someone who needed it. Her mother said nothing for a moment. Then softly, like she was saying something she had always believed but rarely said aloud. It always comes back. Kindness always comes back. Nora stayed on the pavement a moment longer. The city moved. The tower stood. She turned and walked toward the street, chin up, phone in her hand, the tin of biscuits in her bag, and a new Monday in her future. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And if you are new here, subscribe. We tell stories like this every week. Drop a comment below. What would you have done if you were Nora? And if you have already subscribed, leave a like. It truly helps this